The Raw after WrestleMania 42 is in the books, and we have a lot of questions answered, including what will likely be our Backlash main event, as Roman Reigns closed the show this evening, and he reunited with the Usos as they came out together. And right at the end of the promo, where they all kind of agreed to be on the same page again, Roman Reigns was interrupted by Jacob Fatu. So up until this point on the show, we had seen CM Punk, we had seen Obafemi, we had seen Cody Rhodes, we had seen Braun Breaker, we had seen Seth Rollins, and we had seen Gunther in a backstage segment prior to this. So everybody had come out, so Roman's promo was questionable. We didn't know what we were going to see from him, if they were going to jump right into his next program, his next opponent, or if we were going to get some sort of a big angle drop. And I got to tell you, after Roman Reigns came out and said his piece with the championship, he started coming to the ring through Gorilla, like he did the thing where he drives up backstage and walks through backstage area, goes through Gorilla to come out to the ring, and he sees his cousins, the Usos, standing there, and he goes, come on, why don't you come out there with me? So they all go out, and Roman says that he misses this and that he wants them to be together because they're unstoppable when they are together. Nobody's going to fuck with them. He doesn't want them to serve him. He wants them to stand by him and, you know, be more of a team kind of player this time. None of the abuse or the bullshit from last time. And they basically, you know, agreed to it. Jimmy just said, they were kind of making you think they were going to turn, because Jimmy just said one brief little thing that I guess was a yes on the microphone, and then slammed it down, and then Roman and the Usos go to do their little one-up pose, and you can even see Jimmy like looking over at Jay, and I thought the two of them were going to super kick him right in the face, double super kick, and turn on him, but instead we get some music playing, and those of you who were here for the watch-along a minute ago, I mistook that for Obafemi. I thought he was coming back out, but it's because I don't know these themes very well, and it was Jacob Fatu that came out, not Obafemi. And as soon as I saw him, it's like, wow, that actually makes perfect sense, because we've got a crowded and very, very exciting world title scene right now on Raw. You got Roman Reigns, Braun Breaker, Obafemi, and Gunther all on the same show. And Roman Reigns has got some big world title programs, you would think, against guys like Obafemi and probably Gunther, which has been the rumors. And one of those two is definitely going to face him at SummerSlam. There's no way they're not going to have one of those guys face him. So you would think that his first, or not think, but obviously his first pay-per-view opponent or pay-per-view title defense is going to have to be a win and a successful defense. Roman said on the post show last night at WrestleMania 42 that he's here. None of this part-time shit. We're going to fix that, he said. And he goes, you're going to see me all summer long, which tells me he's just going to work the summer and drop the title at SummerSlam. I feel like he gave that away. So there's no way he's going to be working against Obafemi at Backlash unless he beats Obafemi. And we don't want that to happen. So he's going to have to face a credible opponent that he can also beat. Jacob Fatu is literally the perfect guy. He just had a big win over Drew McIntyre. He's on the rise. This is a big quality title match for him. He doesn't have to win this one. Jacob should win. No, he shouldn't. He just needs to have a great outing, take Roman to the limit. Great opportunity for him and an opponent for Roman Reigns, a credible opponent for Roman Reigns to beat. And Jacob came out, said his piece, and basically challenged Roman Reigns at Backlash right there. And I guess that's going to be our match, Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu. Zane G is saying it's an underwhelming Raw. That's my question to all of you. What did you think about tonight's Raw after Mania? It certainly did not provide the mega surprises that we've seen in the past. We got no real surprises here. We got some cool moments. We had Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, which we'll talk about. And we had the Street Profits returning. We had some Gunther shit backstage, but we didn't. And we had a couple of NXT call-ups. Technically 3, I think, if you include Joe Hendry, who's going to be debuting, I guess, next week in some sort of concert thing. So we had some NXT call-ups. We had some cool moments, but we didn't have any major surprise, any major title change. There was no Becky Lynch on this show. I had pitched an idea for her to come out and issue an open challenge, and you have Sol Ruca come out and beat her. We did see Sol Ruca tonight. She worked with Liv Morgan, but it was non-title. So Yeah, Street Profits returned, but they've just been off TV. So it's not like one of them's been hurt or anything. I think they've both been healthy, and WWE just hasn't used them for some reason, which I don't fucking understand why. It feels like they've had like 5 or 6 different breaks where they've just been gone from TV. So they are back, and we had some call-ups, but we had no real big surprise. Like, I think that's why I thought there was a really good chance that the Usos would turn on Roman Reigns, because he did everything on his own last night. So now if he's kind of acting or asking to get the band back together, like when Brett got back with Davey and Owen, and formed the Hart Foundation, if he's trying to form something like that again and get some backup, after he proved to himself that he can do things on his own, maybe the Usos just have too much PTSD from the time before, or whatever the reason is, or they never really truly got that apology. A whole number of reasons, but a double super kick is what I thought was coming until Jacob Fatu came out and challenged Roman, and he accepted. So let me know what you thought of tonight's Raw. Grade it A, B, C, or D, 1 through 10. It wasn't that great in my estimation, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as some of the other ones. Like the one after 39 was so disappointing and so infuriating. This one at least, we had call-ups and, you can see that we're moving forward. This is kind of a new era with a lot of new guys on top. And we also got some news from CM Punk tonight that he's not going anywhere either. So he's not going to be taking any time off. He's going to be right in the mix. And they have now teased Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, the match that I thought was going to be, or I was hoping would be, the main event of WrestleMania 43. They might not be able to wait that long, unless tonight was a tease for a year out, that's the direction they're going in. But who knows? The way these guys get hurt and tear their pecs and bust their eyes and all that shit and tear their triceps, you just might want to do it now while you have the chance. So we might see Punk make the move over to SmackDown, which I think you need to do at this point. Raw's crowded. Raw's got a lot of stars on top. Seth, Gunther, Braun, Oba, Roman, holy shit, and Punk. So Punk moving over to SmackDown, I think, would make a lot of sense. So it feels like they might be going in that direction too. So in that respect, I'm like, okay, I see forward movement. This might not be one of the greatest, Raw after Manias with beach balls and Money in the Bank cash-ins that we've ever seen, but it didn't piss me off the way some Raw after Manias have in the past. But yeah, I definitely grade it relatively low, somewhat underwhelming. But hey, storyline-wise, at least they're keeping everything moving, and we got some of the things that we're accustomed to seeing on Raw after Manias. So we've got some A's and some C's in here. 7 out of 10. I can do 7 out of 10. I might go 6.8 out of 10, something like that. But let's start at the beginning, because we knew we would see Oba Femi tonight, and he opened up the show. So there was really nothing to this, which kind of sucked. Obviously, you don't want to go pedal to the metal. We talked about that earlier. Oba Femi last night on the WrestleMania 42 post show, he called out Roman Reigns. But like I said, you're not going to do Oba and Roman at Backlash. You're not going to do it that fast. When Oba gets in the ring with Roman, he should probably beat Roman. So you don't want to do one right after he beat Brock Lesnar. You're not going to turn around and have Roman survive a title defense against him. So you got to figure out a way to hold that off. So what are they going to do with Oba in the meantime? One thing I don't want them to do is to do like the Ryback thing, where you're putting him in there with 2 guys every week and just have him jobbers, have him smash people. We've already seen that. You've already done that with him. He's now moved on to credible programs. He just beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. You don't go backwards with him and pretend like he just debuted again. So you need to kill time for Oba or with Oba until you're ready for him to become champion, whenever that is. And with a guy that big, you don't have a whole lot of options. If he was small, he could be doing all sorts of different shit. But, when you're a guy that large with that much of a future, with the win over Brock Lesnar like that, you got to figure out something for him to do in the meantime. So I'm hoping that we maybe get an opponent for him at Backlash, or something that I guess maybe leads him into, like, I feel like you got to have him win King of the Ring, but Roman might be facing Gunther. So that's what you got to think about with like Oba and all this beef at the top. Like, who gets their shot first who gets the SummerSlam match, and then what does the other person do? And it's a little harder to think of what Oba can do. Gunther, there's all sorts of things he can do. It looks like he's going to be working with LA Knight prior to whenever this favor gets cashed in. But a guy like Oba, there's only so much you can do to kind of burn time off. So I don't know what his plans are, and he revealed nothing. He came out, fans chanted hard, everybody's doing the strut. You can tell this guy's going to be huge. And he says, what did he say? The ruler is here? I think it was 4 words, something about the ruler is here, and then he just dropped the mic down. So on one hand, you look at the silliness of that. I'm like, hey, this looked like this is one of those nights where you can call your shot. Jacob just did it. All Jacob had to do to get a World Heavyweight Championship match with Roman Reigns was walk out there and say he wanted one. Why didn't Oba stay on the mic for one more sentence and just say, Roman, I want you at Backlash? Obviously, we know why. I just explained why. But, you know, if you're thinking of this from a character standpoint or pretending this is reality, Oba's character should be on top of the world right now. He just essentially squashed Brock Lesnar at the biggest show. He wants a title shot. If I beat Brock, I can beat Roman. Why didn't he call him out right there? So that was a disappointment to me. But I understand WWE's got to go a little bit slower with him because the champion on Raw is Roman. He just won the belt, and he's probably not going to drop that until SummerSlam at the earliest. So I was kind of hoping that maybe someone would come out and maybe confront Oba, but now you got to wonder what he's going to do unless they just book him in matches now, like random matches on TV. But I think he needs a program or something to keep his momentum rolling instead of just treating him like a guy who just came in, and they need to keep establishing him with squash matches and whatnot. You know, and he never really did say which brand he's on. Did he ever officially sign with Raw and Adam Pearce? But, I mean, he's on Raw. Obviously, he's going to be on Raw. So, anyway, whatever they do with Oba, we'll see. I guess he's going to have a Backlash match. Oba versus Braun Breaker. I don't know. I think those guys you kind of got to keep separate, too. And you got to think that the locker room's got to be a little bit terrified of Oba right now. So, I don't think anybody's going to come out there and confront him. I mean, he's already done the Rusev thing. So, I don't know what they do. I don't know what Oba does. You know, I'd try to give him a little program with someone, obviously, that he beats, but I don't know who. I don't know who you pick. You know, I just don't want to see him come out there and execute his big powerbomb on Otis and shit, you know, every week. You know, do something with him. Let us get to know him more, you know, on the microphone. Have him be in the ring with someone, cutting a promo or attacking or, you know, that type of thing. Not just, hey, I can beat 2 guys at once. So we'll see what they did, what they do with Oba. But there's got to be somebody that he can kind of mess around with for a while until they move on to whatever he's going to do. So then we had the new WWE Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. She's on the show tonight. She's teaming up with Io Sky, and they are going to be taking on the Kabuki Warriors. So this was kind of funny. This is like Rhea, she's just coming to Raw because I was a little bit worried at first. I'm like, my God, please, let's not start intermixing these championships, please. I like how it's uniform with the WWE titles on SmackDown and the world titles on Raw. I don't want to see them being mixed around. But it was just kind of for one night. You know, they're still in Vegas. They're at T-Mobile. Rhea is still there, so she's coming out to team with her friend one more time against the Kabuki Warriors. And they get the victory. And then we would see more from them later on, which we will talk about in a cool little segment backstage. But that was kind of like their final victory together. Everything went swimmingly there, except for Io Sky doing another extremely crazy dive. I still haven't seen the replay on social media. I'm sure people were talking about it. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought from what I saw, but she had that bad dive a couple of weeks back, which was really, really scary. And I swear to Jesus, this one was worse, or at least as bad. But I only saw it that one time, and I haven't seen an online replay yet. So if somebody sees it floating around Twitter, tag me in it so I can look at it again. But she came down really hard on her head, and Ripley looked really worried about her too. But she got right the fuck up. and got to the top to do her moonsault, I think, for the win. I think she even scored the pin, didn't she? Maybe. I don't know. Don't remember. Didn't make detailed notes. We were doing a watch-along. But Ripley and Io Sky defeat the Kabuki Warriors. We are still waiting for Asuka and Kairi Sane to finally do the split. I thought it would come here. It's the night after Mania. I thought we'd get an official, kind of split between those two, and I guess Io Sky is going to be sticking around on Raw, to continue doing her thing with the Kabukis, but she's going to lose a friend in Rhea Ripley. She will probably pick one up in Kairi Sane once they finally do that whole thing. After that, we had a little backstage segment where Penta, I think, is talking to Javon Evans or something, and they are interrupted by Ethan Page. So Ethan Page shows up. They make a match later on, or they make a match for right there, Ethan Page versus Javon Evans, and Adam Pearce welcomes Ethan Page as like the newest member of Raw. So there's our first call-up of the night. He was actually spoiled earlier on the day. Sol Ruca and Ethan Page were reported by various places, if you want to read spoilers, that they were planned to be called up tonight, and they even had the matches right. It was going to be Ethan versus Javon and Sol Ruca versus Liv Morgan. So we have the match, and Rusev winds up showing up because I was curious about this one. This is Ethan Page versus Javon Evans, and Javon's kind of a recent call-up too. So I can't see WWE wanting to beat either of these guys. If Ethan Page is going to get called up and just have a match that he wins, then you put him in there with Tozawa. But being in there with Javon, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. How is one of these guys going to beat the other? Easy. Rusev shows up. Rusev is pissed. He's kind of blaming Javon for not winning the ladder match because I think it was Javon that landed on him and broke the ladder. That was a gnarly spot. And we don't get ones that are like really scary, dangerous looking, but that one was pretty bad. So he kind of blames Javon. So he came in to assist Ethan Page in his victory. Ethan hits him with the Twist of Fate RKO BFT stunner thing that about 3 or 4 different guys now do as their finisher for the win. And after the match, Rusev gets back in there, beats down Javon Evans. Penta tries to come out and make the save. He gets beat down too, and Rusev then poses with the Intercontinental title. So Rusev might actually get a title match against Penta. Hopefully he will be unsuccessful in that endeavor because I don't want to see that happen. Then it was time for a really intriguing promo. We weren't even sure if we were going to see CM Punk on the show tonight. And then the camera just cuts to him. Like WWE, I didn't see anywhere on social media today where they were advertising Punk. So camera cuts to him walking into the building, straight through, no music, out to the aisleway. Kind of like last night after they finished the AFI bit and they moved into Cult of Personality. And he kneeled down, and then music played, and he's got, he seems like he's in an okay mood, but there was some emotion on his face. Some of us were worried that, oh shit, is he hurt? Is he going to announce a hiatus? We did hear that he's going to be taking time off. He said in this promo that he would not. And he seemed to be taking the loss relatively well, and even said that he's not going anywhere. He's going to stick around, and still called himself the best in the world. And then he said, and you could tell, I had a feeling Cody was going to come out because on Friday night, their segment on SmackDown, Punk said something kind of referencing that they're both going to be on Raw. And I kind of thought, I'm like, oh yeah, we should have a segment on Raw to see which one of them still have their championships. If they both do, if one does, if neither of them do. And I thought it was going to be the opposite. I predicted the exact opposite scenario. I predicted no title for Cody and a title for Punk. But Cody, as we know, retained over Randy Orton on night 1. So Punk, after he's done saying his piece, he says, you never know when a title opportunity will fall out of the sky or whatever the line was. And I was calling it. I'm like, Cody, Cody, Cody. And then boom, American Nightmare hits. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And Cody comes out. Yeesh. Cody got his pec injury on his eyeball. Ouch. We knew that he got roughed up in the main event. He caught, I think, just a clean right hand from Randy, and it popped his orbital bone, might have fractured it, and his eye was swollen shut. Plus, he was cut above his eye, cut in the back of his head. He went through hell, and he looked a mess after he won, like when the referee's raising his hand, and he's got a swollen eye and blood surrounding his face. He was just out of it, man. So he's not even cleared to wrestle currently right now, like legit. But I didn't really expect him to have a match tonight anyway. So he comes out, and again, both of them had a very, very emotional exchange on Friday night. And this is the match that I have kind of been vocal about wanting to be the WrestleMania 43 main event. The problem with that is there might not be time for that. You know, this might be something you got to do when these guys are healthy. I mean, CM Punk, he had a great run with the title there. Great main event with Roman Reigns, one of the better matches, and I'm very, very impressed with him. But he does, you know, he's 46, as he said, so he can easily get injured at the blink of an eye. Any day, he could turn up injured and be out for a year. So if you've got an opportunity to do this match, you might not be able to wait until next year in Saudi Arabia. Maybe we do this now. So maybe this is just a tease, and this is what our SummerSlam match is. And imagine that, Roman Reigns and Gunther and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. So maybe CM Punk can enter the King of the Ring. If they do it that way again, isn't that what they've been doing? The King of the Ring or something, and the winner gets the title match at SummerSlam. I think that's what they do. I think AEW does that with the Owen. I mean, I think they do. So maybe Punk gets a title shot that way. And Punk and Cody is your SummerSlam match, not your WrestleMania 43 match. I like that idea a lot more because I would just do it now. And, you know, I don't have everything written down in terms of what they said, but Cody said something about, you know, I should be up here feeling like a loser. Whatever he said, something about being a loser, and then CM Punk's like, are you calling me a loser? So there was just a little bit tease, like they're just slowly easing into it. You know, everything's still cool between them, but Punk was kind of like, did you really just say that? And then Punk kind of gets really close to him, and he repeats the same line that he said before Cody came out, looking directly down at Cody's title. And he says, you never know when another title opportunity, like I got to stay ready. I'm always going to be ready because you never know when another opportunity is going to fall from the sky. So Punk then leaves. And as he's walking away, Cody Rhodes says, just say when. So Cody has an open invitation for Punk to challenge for the title. Again, this match feels too big to me to do at Backlash. So I don't want this to happen here. I'm hoping maybe they can, you know, the Cody not being cleared thing will allow them to get past Backlash. But I think you got to move Punk over to SmackDown now. There's a lot of star power on Raw, or a lot of main event power right now on Raw. I mean, essentially 6 top contenders outside of Punk alone. Roman Reigns, Obafemi, Gunther, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins. I guess that's 5. So I guess Punk would be the 6th. So you've got 5 bona fide, you know, main event guys there, and Jacob Fatu is now there. So Jacob coming to Raw, Punk moving to SmackDown, and Punk and Cody being on the same show, that could make Friday nights tolerable. So I'm very, very much into this idea. Oba and Aleister Black could be a fun feud. Yeah, it could. Could they move Aleister to Raw and have him be the first clash with Oba? Well, Karrion Kross would be a good one too if he was still there. Yeah, I agree with that. So Punk and Cody now seems to be the plan at some point in the future. And WrestleMania 43, like I said, feels a little bit far off. I would try to do this at SummerSlam, and it seems like it should be really easy to get there. You know, Cody literally said, just say when, you know, but maybe Punk has got to do something to earn it. I don't know, but I'd move him over to SmackDown, give Punk some time on SmackDown, and build to a Punk and Cody Rhodes match at SummerSlam. So that was kind of interesting. Let me know what you guys thought of it and when you think that match will happen. Not WrestlePalooza. I hope not. All right. After that, we had I think it was the Ethan Page and after that was the Ethan Page and Javon Evans match, which I talked about earlier. Then we had the... Oh, when I had the commercial break on my Netflix, so I missed the Danhausen segment. But then it was time for a Judgment Day segment. So Liv Morgan, of course, winning the championship at WrestleMania, beating Stephanie Vaquer in a very, very underwhelming match. I think it went like 6-7 minutes, something like that. Very, very short. And Liv wins the title. So now she's out there with all of Judgment Day. She's happy. She's making bad decisions, like her song says, and says her piece. And then we get Sol Ruca interrupting. Now, the problem with this is it was kind of spoiled today. We heard, if you read spoilers or you looked at some of the websites, they were reporting that WWE was planning on doing a Sol Ruca and Liv Morgan match on Raw. So if you knew that and read it ahead of time, watching Liv's promo, you were kind of just waiting for Sol Ruca to come out. And she did. She's out there. That's great. She's a perfect call-up. It's been time. I remember when I first laid eyes on this amazing woman like 3 years ago, I said, holy crap. Charlotte is going to meet her match in that one right there because she is special, special, special. Wait till she's there for a while and she learns and is taught. She got the basics of her already were so down. And I was just ready for her to get developed and get on the main roster. She had an injury. She was out for a while, but she is now here, and I'm glad that she is. She now basically issues a challenge to Liv Morgan. Pierce comes out, makes the match, because Liv, of course, doesn't really want to do it, and we get Liv Morgan versus Sol Ruca one-on-one. Now, again, much like Ethan Page and Javon Evans, I'm like, I don't feel like you're going to beat your NXT call-up, but you're not going to beat your world champion either, who just won the belt yesterday or day before. So what do you do here? Who's going to interfere? I guess Roxanne and Raquel are going to just cost Sol Ruca the match. But no, Sol Ruca has got a last woman standing match tomorrow in NXT versus Zarya. She's going to finish up that feud and finish up her business in NXT tomorrow. So she was then attacked from behind by Zarya, who beats the hell out of her on the outside of the ring, chucks her back in. Liv hits the Oblivion on her. Went for an earlier Oblivion on Sol, who countered it beautifully, and hit a Soul Snatcher on Liv Morgan as well, which is one of the best finishing moves if done right, and she's got an amazingly high percentage of executing that one. The Soul Snatcher reminds me of Athena's move, whatever that is, that corkscrew stunner thing. I'm like, God damn, that's got to be so hard to hit perfectly. And she does all the time. Like, I mean, it's a two-person effort there, but the way that she's perfected that, and Sol is getting better and better at that Soul Snatcher. It is a sick-ass move. I loved it. But Liv Morgan hits the Oblivion after the attack from Zarya and beats Sol Ruca, and that is fine because that's a perfect setup for tomorrow. Zarya costs her the match here. Liv Morgan, gets the win, and now tomorrow Sol Ruca can win the blow-off with Zarya and then be on the main roster full-time. So that all works out with me. After that match, what do we have here? I guess it was, this more interesting shit here. Like I said, this isn't one of the most over-the-top Raw after Manias ever. I think a lot of fans are going to consider it relatively underwhelming, probably not going to be great at A's or anything like that. However, Paul Heyman and the Vision, I guess this was confirmation. There's still just a lot of, I wouldn't say like uncertainty, just a little bit of uncertainty. We're not 100% sure what really to make of the Brock Lesnar retirement. The more and more time goes by and the more we think about it and it soaks in, that feels like it was a retirement. I think it is. I hope it was. I'm hoping that they're not going to undo anything or backtrack here at all. And if they were, I was hoping that we would get some of those questions answered one way or the other here tonight on Raw. Either they were going to tease something like maybe the retirement's not done, or they were going to do something to tell you that that was legit. And I feel like Paul Heyman told us that, yes, that was indeed a Brock Lesnar retirement. He told us with his words. He told us with his voice. He came out with the Vision, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory. And he got on the mic to basically put over Brock Lesnar one more time and passionately praise him. And then when he went in to talk about and went into his line of saying the beast, Brock, when he was about to say it, you could see in his face that he was about to say that for the last time. I still think he's going to say it in future promos if it ever gets brought up. He's not like he's never going to say Brock Lesnar again, but giving him that over-the-top introduction, introducing him the way that Paul Heyman does. He is essentially doing that for the final time. And that is a big deal. I mean, that's been a big part of the last 15 years in WWE is the Heyman and Brock combination. He came back in 2012, like 14 years now. But, it's been a while. I mean, the minute Brock came back, he was immediately back with Heyman. And, Heyman's been doing those epic introductions and been at Brock's side for some of the biggest matches in, the last 15 years, the streak ending and some of those Mania main events and whatnot. So Heyman kind of giving Brock his final introduction there felt final. That was almost like confirmation that, he did retire. And that's the way Brock, like I said earlier, Brock Lesnar has never really shown any sort of like emotional vulnerability at all. And you could see he was crying, openly weeping in the ring, something that we have never seen out of Brock Lesnar before. And he takes off his gloves and boots. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to struggle to let go. He's not going to do the Undertaker thing and go through that whole fucking process just to come back out of retirement. He doesn't seem like that type of cat, Like if he says it's over, and he wants it to be his way. Not a lot of pomp and circumstance, not a lot of build, not a lot of, going into this match with his career on the line or with the fans really knowing it's going to be his retirement. That's very Brock, to have a whole thing about it. Leave the memories alone. That's not Brock. So I didn't need to see, and I don't need to see, a retirement match with Gunther. I don't want Brock just to be another guy on on Gunther's retirement list. It's already pretty big right now, and Brock going out this way, giving Oba that accolade instead of Gunther. Oba can do a lot more with that. Gunther's already got 3 in the bag here. So doing just one more is almost like overkill. Even though I like the idea of the career killer gimmick and him retiring a bunch of people, for him to do it to all those guys, legends like that, if you would have thrown Brock on that pile, that is a little bit too much. I will agree. So Oba is much more suited for that spot, and to have that victory that is going to go down, at least, I guess, at least in modern, recent history as a win and a victory that should be about as significant as the streak ending. Not as big, but the last person to beat Brock Lesnar, the person to retire him. Brock Lesnar might have beaten the streak, but he did not retire Brock Lesnar. AJ Styles did. Or I'm sorry, he did not retire The Undertaker. AJ Styles did. So Brock did not retire him, but Brock got retired by Oba Femi. So Heyman's promo at least signaled to me anyway that Brock retirement was legit, and I should probably stop thinking about it. But maybe he comes back at some last minute, or they coax him out with a big payday. But I think Brock, he lives out in BFE in the middle of the fucking woods, and just shoots deer, carves them up and eats them and shit. Like, he doesn't need any more millions. I'm sure he's doing fine. So he just doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to keep coming back for greed or thirst for the spotlight. He just doesn't exhibit any of that, vibe at all. So I think he's done. Somebody brought up last night in the WrestleMania review the idea that I don't hate, but I've always said this before when people talk about people going into the Hall of Fame together. I'm like, you're not going to put headliners together, or retire together. Oh, you can have Undertaker and Shawn Michaels retire together. I'm like, no. That's not how you do retirements. One at a fucking time, please. Otherwise you're sharing the spotlight, and I don't want to see that for the Hall of Fame either. But I think it would be cool, since Batista never technically went in when he was supposed to, if you did an OVW class. If you waited until Randy Orton is done, and then you just put them all in 1 year. Randy Orton, Batista, Brock Lesnar, and John Cena. The headliner would not be hard to decide. It's John Cena. And, it shouldn't even matter really, but the problem with that is each one of those guys are headliners. So they can each headline future years. So WWE isn't going to do that, but it would be cool if they did. And you've got this shot of the 4 of them. Like how the Click did the thing at the Hall of Fame? And you get the shot of all 4 of them in their suits and their Hall of Fame plaques all going in together. That fucking insane OVW class. That would be a crazy image. but I think you want to spread these headliners out in order to maximize, Hall of Fame interest and whatnot. So I understand that. But man, that would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be so cool. But Brock Lesnar sounds like he's retired, and I couldn't be happier. I'm glad that he went out that way. I always wondered how he would have his final match, and if that turns out to be it, and it feels like it is, that's fucking perfect, man. He went out his way, and we don't know how much of it was planned. Triple H claimed that he had no idea Brock was going to retire, but the camera knew to stay on Brock, instead of going right to the Applebee's commercial after every match like they had been doing. So, the cameras knew to stay with him. I feel like maybe it was something he told him maybe at the last minute, but then I didn't see it, but I saw somebody saying that Heyman last night at one of the post shows was saying that Brock isn't retired, but Heyman put him over pretty strongly here, and he did reference also Heyman in this promo, the favor that he is going to owe to Gunther. He thanked Gunther for what he did for him in the Seth Rollins match and acknowledged that there is a favor to be repaid. Now, our initial suspicions, I guess yesterday, was that favor would have something to do with a Brock Lesnar match. And Gunther might say, Brock's not retired, not yet. The favor you owe me is going to be a match with Brock, but I don't really know how Heyman, unless they made up some stupid contract thing, he would have to force Brock Lesnar to fight, you're on a per appearance deal and you retired too early, you still have one left. That would be lame. Then Brock would come back and lose to Gunther? That can't be. That's just stupid. So it feels like that's not happening, which is good. So whatever the favor is with Heyman, it might just have something to do with getting that title match against Roman Reigns or something at SummerSlam. So after Heyman says his piece there, then he introduces Braun Breaker, who of course returned last night at WrestleMania and speared Seth Rollins into oblivion. That was great. We expected that. We knew he'd come back. Gunther got the win. So they reintroduce Braun Breaker here, and he says this piece, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Didn't the Vision kind of form a year ago tonight? Because last year at WrestleMania in night one, Heyman ditched Punk and Roman, joined Rollins, and then the next night he formed the group with Breaker and Reed, I think, right, last year. So it's been a year now, and things are much different, and that's when Seth Rollins shows up from behind with a chair, takes out Braun Breaker. He attacks, but he's immediately neutralized because there's like three guys in there. So Logan Paul and Theory take care of Rollins. They start beating him down when the Street Profits music hit. The Street Profits return out of nowhere. They have been off TV for I don't know how long. I don't think either one of them were hurt. I think that they just haven't been used. So now they're back on Raw, and they come out here to try to help Seth Rollins. I think they run off Theory and what's his dick. And now I guess the Profits can feud with them for the tag team titles. And that leaves Braun Breaker in the ring with Rollins. And Breaker got caught on the back of his head, I guess, with a chair shot. And he had blood all over his face. But he beats the hell out of Seth and then hits him with that spear. And that's probably going to be a match at Backlash. Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. So Breaker's back, and that whole segment was pretty interesting with the Profits coming back. Heyman kind of confirming in a way that the Brock Lesnar retirement probably is legit, and more Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins stuff. So that was that. Then this was kind of cool. Morgan is out there. Oh, that's right. That's from earlier. Sorry. After that was when I had literally just said it too. I had said that we hadn't seen Gunther yet. Oh, I also forgot to mention that Finn Balor versus JD McDonough. That was up next. That's the match I missed. I knew I had something missing in my notes there. I'm like, where am I at? That's right. So JD McDonough and Finn Balor, that was actually advertised. That was advertised for Raw tonight. And they made a whole video package for it. So this was essentially the main event match of Raw. This was the final match before Roman's big promo, and it was a straight-up match. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. If Dom was going to come out and like cost Balor, it was going to be like that, but it was a one-on-one match between two guys. They really played up the history between JD and Finn Balor in the video package, which is why I'm glad that they really allowed them just to have their match, and they didn't have any bullshit. And in the end, it was Balor, who's a little more clean-shaven now because he had all that demon paint on, I think, beat J.D. McDonough, and then after the match, Dominic Mysterio came out to try to attack Balor, but Balor laid him out. So I'm glad that they didn't do any interference there, and they just had the match. It was a good match, and Finn Balor got the win. And that's when I think it was during that match that I was saying, I said, okay, guys, we just saw Rollins and Braun Breaker. We saw Obafemi to open the show, and we've also seen CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. The only major player that we have not seen yet is Gunther. And so since JD and Balor was over, I was like, well, I think Gunther is going to have to interrupt Roman Reigns because we've seen everybody, and unless they gave him the night off, which I can't imagine they would, he beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. They're still in Vegas. Why would he go home? And we haven't seen him yet. And I'm thinking right after the match, we're going to go into the Roman promo, and then Gunther is going to come out. And I was having the same questions in my head that I was with Oba. I'm like, he can't do Gunther and Roman yet. Roman's first title defense, if he's going to stay true to his word that he said on the post show, and he's going to be here all summer, and we're going to see him every week and whatnot, that means he probably is going to work all the pay-per-views. He'll have a match at Backlash. It can't be Gunther. It's too early. So Gunther and Oba need to be saved for a bigger stage than this, preferably SummerSlam, but only one man can get the match there. So then we cut backstage to an interview with Jackie Redmond, and she is with Gunther. I'm like, oh, okay, here's Gunther right here. He's probably not going to come out and confront Roman Reigns. So we do get a Gunther appearance. He mentions, or Jackie asks him what the favor is, and he doesn't really answer, but he does mention that, or acknowledge that Heyman does owe him one, and he will be collecting on that favor very soon. And that's when LA Knight shows up. Talks a little smack to Gunther, and it looks like this is going to be a stall for Gunther. We mentioned that with Obafemi. He just came out, cut his promo, dropped the microphone, and leaves. You know, he's going to have to burn some time, kill some time until it's time to make him the man. So one of these two guys, Gunther or Obafemi, is going to have to face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. So whichever one of those guys it is, they're going to have to kill some time in the meantime. So Gunther, at least in the immediate future, okay, boom, he's got LA Knight. They'll do a match with the two of them on TV, or they will book it for Backlash. Obafemi, though, what is he going to do? Still don't know about that. So LA Knight kind of standing in Gunther's way here. This is just a time-killing program, I think, for Gunther until they're ready to pay off the favor or whatever the fuck is going on there. And the favor will probably have something to do with Gunther achieving a title shot. And it would be really cool if Gunther needs Heyman's help to get a title shot, but you've got like Obafemi who also wants one, and you get some like in-ring confrontation between Oba and Gunther. I don't know if you want to go right off with a match yet, or maybe just tease that for the future. You know, Gunther wants a shot, so does Oba. Seems like the only way to determine who gets one is to have a match between those two guys. The winner gets Roman, but I think you might want to save that one. And Braun Breaker too. All of those guys, you know, however you're going to do these matches, you really got to think it through and think about the future and other. Should we wait on this one? Should we do it now? Is this too early? Is this waiting too long? Think about all that stuff and just make sure you're trying to time these matches when you have them properly and when you're going to beat one of these guys. Because right now, the problem with all four of those guys, none of them can be beat right now. You cannot beat Gunther, Roman, Oba, or Braun right now. So none of them can really challenge for the title in the meantime. They're all going to have to do other shit. Breaker is going to work with Rollins. Gunther is going to have something to do with LA Knight. And as we talked about earlier, Roman Reigns with Jacob Fatu. Just got to figure out something for Oba Femi to do. So Gunther, we got him there. And then after that, we had, this was so funny. I feel like I felt like they've been doing this lovey-dovey shit with Rhea and Io on purpose to play into whatever match they have down the line or whatever turn they have down the line. And so, of course, Ripley is here on Raw, and she teamed with Io tonight to beat the Kabukis. But this is going to be the final time that they're kind of together on the same brand. So they cut backstage to the two of them, and it's just like, it's like the end of Lost in Translation. It's like Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray are never going to see each other again. They have to share one last kiss and one soft message into the ear. And it's so emotional and and all that shit. And it's like, you're not going to never see each other again. You got each other's phone numbers. You're going to be at the same events with each other like virtually every month. You got FaceTime, don't you? You text message, don't you? And the tears and the sadness. This is it. Like, she's about to get on a plane and fly far, far away and never see you again. It was so funny. I'm not even mad about it. It was so dumb it was funny. And I guess this is it. And she puts her arm around her, and I guess this is it. And Io's like, I'm going to miss you. And I'm like, you can just text. You can just FaceTime in half an hour and see each other. It's just the silliest shit. So they say their goodbyes. Rhea says, Io, you stay here and kick ass. I'm going to go do my thing on SmackDown. And they part ways very dramatically. Very dramatically. I cried. If you didn't cry, you're a cop. It's very emotional. So they leave. And then Ripley starts walking away, and she passes Liv Morgan leaning up on the crate. See, this is the type of shit I want for WrestleMania. These little backstage run-ins, with your two champions. And I remember, the first time like Brock and Goldberg came together backstage. Brock was probably like late 03 or something. Brock was WWE champion and Goldberg was world heavyweight champion. I'm like, that was cool. Shit like this. So this little, the ton of history that the two of them have between Liv and Rhea, they're both now champions and walking by and kind of acknowledging each other. I really liked that. So Rhea is now off to SmackDown. I'm assuming she's probably going to have another match with Jade Cargill. There was a lot of outside interference in that victory. We had the baddies out there, and we had Io Sky coming down, so Jade might feel like she was cheated, and Ripley might grant her a rematch, and they might do Ripley and Jade a backlash with a stip. Would not be surprised. I can't see that being really a one-off. That felt like a program, Ripley and Jade, so I feel like we're going to get another one there. Delayed Grat says mid-show overall, but did what it needed to do. Reset the WWE back to bloodline lucrative story. Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a mid-overall show, but I didn't come away from this Raw. Well, I never do, really. But, there's a lot of kind of anger and disappointment, and frustration is a good word, too, after some of these Raw after Manias, especially recently. And even though this one, wasn't the most exciting and didn't have a moment that blew the roof off or anything, they, like I said, they did enough. They moved themselves forward, and that is good. So none of the booking decisions were super head-scratching. We got some interesting teases. We also know what our Backlash title match is going to be. So in that respect, we got a lot out of that. And the Cody and Punk thing, is intriguing too. Like maybe over on SmackDown, that can be kind of like the old man's crew. You can put your Punks, your Codys, your Drews, and maybe your more established stars over there. And then Raw can be Roman and the young guys. Roman with the Oba. Well, I guess Gunther's not that young, but Oba, Gunther, and Braun. And then you kind of have like a different vibe over on SmackDown with Cody and Punk leading things over there. That would be an interesting dynamic between the shows. To have two title scenes that are very unalike. I kind of like that idea. And we already talked about it in the opening. We went all through this segment, but Roman Reigns closed the show. Like I said, came out with the Usos, pitched the crew, the band, as, so to speak, getting back together, and Usos were ready to stand with him. And I was convinced they were going to double super kick Roman Reigns and turn on him. And instead, Jacob Fatu came out and basically called the shot. And he wants a match at Backlash. Roman basically agrees, and that's our match. Roman Reigns is going to be defending the World Heavyweight title against Jacob Fatu at Backlash, and that is actually, honestly, a great opponent for him because, as we said several times throughout this stream tonight, Roman's not going to be dropping. He's not going to Triple H Backlash 2002 this belt. That's not going to happen. He's not going to beat Punk and then just drop it. So he's got to have a quality opponent, a match that the fans want to see, that also is perfectly acceptable for him to beat. It is perfectly fine for him to beat Jacob Fatu. I don't want anybody saying they buried Jacob Fatu if Roman beats him. No, they didn't. You know, they didn't bury Punk last night, did they? No. Then they're not going to bury Jacob Fatu either. So Roman can beat Jacob Fatu. He will. He 100% will. Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, here's my prediction now. Roman Reigns retains. And that's perfectly fine. These are the type of people he should be facing right now and should be beating. And then you build up to whatever you are going to do with him at SummerSlam. And I mean, you would think that Roman is going to have to face all three of those guys, Oba, Gunther, and Braun. But they can't all face him for the title. You know, so not all of those matches are going to be title programs. You know, probably just one of them are. Or Roman will be the challenger. But Roman is probably only going to be champion to face one of those guys. Then after that, if one of those guys beats him, and then like if Gunther beats him at SummerSlam, and then Oba beats Gunther, then maybe Roman gets a title shot against Oba, something like that. But if you're going to do a match at SummerSlam, if you're going to have Roman Reigns put someone over at SummerSlam, I would prefer it be Oba than Gunther. Gunther has already been established. He already has been World Heavyweight Champion. He's a record-setting Intercontinental Champion. He's held the World Heavyweight title twice. So why would you build to that for him to win it again against Roman Reigns? He dropped it last year to CM Punk clean. That, I tell you what, Punk really impressed me in this last year. That match with Gunther and his match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania were both exquisite. Phil is great. He's undeniable. So I think Oba would be better for that, you know, or Braun Breaker would be better for that. But Braun's initial opponent is going to be Rollins. You know, from there, I don't even know. I mean, what does Rollins do? Can't forget about Seth either. You know, maybe Rollins and Oba or something, or I don't know what the fuck. You know, there's a lot to shuffle there. You know, you don't know how to pair these guys off and what to do with them storyline wise over the course of the next 12 months. That's why flying by the seat of your pants is never a good idea, because you really got to think this shit through, in order to maximize what you can do with these guys. And WWE doesn't really fill me with a whole lot of confidence there. It was Mark Shapiro today was speaking to the University of Alabama and mentioned something about how TKO has full control over WWE creative, but that's not really the case. What the case is that Triple H is in charge of creative, but if they want to step in and say, hey, you have to do this, they have to do it, which isn't great. But anyway, that is your Raw in a nutshell. See if you guys have anything else to say here in the chat. I think I got all the super chats. I don't think I've missed any. Yeah, I think we've caught up on all of those. So, yeah, man, guys, another WrestleMania in the books. This is the 15th WrestleMania that I've covered since doing YouTube, and it's been now, I guess, the 8th that I've live streamed, since we've been doing live streams on camera. But every year, WrestleMania is very, very busy, and we have a lot of content, and we do a lot of stuff, and it's been 15 years of this now, of us covering WrestleManias, and it's always kind of bittersweet when the weekend wraps up. It's like, oh man, it was a lot of fun. I don't want the fun to be over. I mean, we had a WrestleMania that is not going to go down as one of the best. As a matter of fact, Saturday night was such a pile of dog shit that half the damn world freaked out on the internet about it the next day. I mean, I wrote 4 paragraphs on it on social media about, what WrestleMania has become in this brand synergized corporate sludge Applebee's commercial bullshit that it's become. And all of the problems that we had with Mania and what they've done to Mania and how it feels now. Despite all of that, I had a great time. It was fun. Thursday night we were here. We did our predictions. We hung out and did a Vault watch along. Friday we talked about SmackDown. We watched the Hall of Fame until 2:30 in the morning. We watched the whole show on Saturday and reviewed it. Did the same thing last night. We were here for the Raw review. And I had fun, like I always do. So WrestleMania season. It's sad that we're not going to get it for 2 more years normally. I mean, I'm talking from the perspective of people here in the U.S. If you're overseas, you're going to have WrestleMania at a normal time next year. I'm happy for you. But it is going to be weird to have to do all this shit in the morning next year, to do our WrestleMania watch-along at 10 a.m. At least I think that's what it's going to be for me. Not looking forward to that. One thing I am hoping they do is they tape the Hall of Fame over here. Tape the Hall of Fame a few nights before you leave for Saudi Arabia, and then you air it Friday night as you always do. Just tape it here because I don't think that the inductees are going to be wanting to fly their grandkids out to Saudi Arabia. So I think you have to do the ceremony here unless Saudi paid for that too, and they insist on doing it there. But hopefully that'll be done here in the States. But not looking real forward to the Saudi Mania. I wish we could fast forward to WrestleMania 44, where we will be right here doing it again like normal. But in the meantime, we got Backlash on the horizon coming up next, and then another 2-night event in just a couple of months, SummerSlam, that's in the beginning of August. So instead of being like WrestleMania being late March and SummerSlam being mid to late August, WrestleMania is late April and SummerSlam is early August. So it's going to be creeping up quick. All right, guys, I am out of here. Thanks again for a wonderful week. I appreciate it. Y'all are the best. Excellent family, excellent community. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me over the past, 5 days. But keep a lookout on the channel. Shit's always happening here, so we will be here on Saturday for the podcast. I got to think of a watch-along to do. We've done all the backlashes, so we'll come up with something fun to do this coming Sunday. Maybe something from the vault again, but we'll be here for a lot of content this weekend. But I'm going to kick back now, hang out, have some dinner, chill with Elizabeth. It's been a weekend. Another one, another WrestleMania in the books. Love you guys. Have a good one. Peace.